Welcome to Video Games Weekly. I am Paul Charchi, and my co-host is Reiner from Game Informer and GameInformer.com. Hi, Reiner.
Hey, Charch. How you doing?
Good. This is an exciting week. We've got all of these, with E3 canceled, everybody's doing online streaming press conferences effectively. And,
right.
At E3, it was kind of like a choke point if you could afford, if you're a big enough company to afford to be able to have a big event on a big stage, you had a big platform, but that was only a handful of people. Now it feels like lots of different companies are doing lots of streaming events, and I really feel like one of the maybe unintended positives that has come out of E3 being canceled is it's giving a voice to a lot of companies that want to stream announcements their way.
Right. Yeah, and when you're at E3, all the companies are piled on top of each other.
Right.
It's
so much
one
noise.
announcement after the other.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas by stretching it out in streaming, you can pick whatever day you want, as long as you're kind of part of this movement, this conversation, this summer of games, or June, I guess, in general, is kind of the time for video game announcements. You will be relevant. You will be heard. So I think it's great seeing, big companies like Electronic Arts doing something and Sony, and then smaller ones too, just getting in there and throwing out, their games, their announcements for next gen and new and current gen. And, you're seeing a lot of those happening at IGN. They have a thing starting today, I think, or no, tomorrow, June 10th. Will be IGN Expo Day 1, and there will be a bunch of smaller games announced there.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. IGN is effectively a competitor of yours. They're a journalist, video game and video game culture site that has real journalism, reviews. I mean, many of the same things you guys do. Mm-hmm. There's part of me that got rubbed wrong by the notion that IGN has created an expo in which they are doing game reveals and things that feel like they're outside of the bounds potentially of sort of hardcore journalistic integrity. Like,
right.
If a particular company is giving IGN an exclusive reveal at the IGN Expo, can I trust IGN to review that game fairly, to speak critically of it? Is that, or I want to assume that they're going to handle it okay, but it doesn't necessarily feel right. What do you think?
Right.
Am I overstating that?
I think you are a little bit.
Okay.
IGN is just gargantuan in terms of, a company. Mm-hmm. It's not just, the game reviews and all that stuff. They're not, Game Informer's like 15 writers. I think they have like 15 people just doing social media.
Yeah.
They're really focused on movies and all pop culture stuff. And, them starting an expo like this, which is probably just going to be a one and done, I would assume.
Well, I don't know. You think so?
You have to think E3 or something will take its place next year, right? Like,
I don't know. Maybe.
If we're able to, hang around other people,
a year from now, we better be able to.
Oh God.
People are bursting at the seams now.
I know. But if we're not, then maybe IGN Expo keeps going. But this just seems kind of like E3's not happening. How can we take care of some of these companies that were going to be there? Let's put up our own streaming channel. We have a big audience. Let's help them out. I don't think there's any journalistic integrity being compromised here. It is a little weird, like you said, from the outside, but they're a professional outlet. They have hundreds of people working there. If there is anything that's weird, it's going to get out. You would have to assume that someone would say something, and then that would be it.
All right, and we don't have to go deep into this whole E3 thing. I just think there's a chance that companies are going to do this. E3 was already on the ropes in many ways.
Oh, it was.
People are going to do this. Like Sony's got their big streamer coming this Thursday, and we're going to talk about it in just a second. They might just decide, we got just as much bang for the buck out of this, and we have to do any of the E3 stuff. E3 is an enormous, enormous diversion for every company that attends. All of your development stops. Everybody's working to get this thing done. And a lot of companies might feel like, it's just not worth it. And I don't know that E3 comes back and not like it was. But we've got Sony's Sony's big streamer coming. You mentioned the IGN Expo. Gorilla's got a day coming in which they're going to talk about Larian Studios and Sega and Paradox Interactive, a PC gaming show, which is great. So there are a bunch of these coming. Let's focus on the Sony one for a minute because this is coming Thursday. We saw Microsoft try to do a version of this a month ago, and it was a disaster. We got virtually no good intel on the system. We got almost no in-game footage. We just got a bunch of canned videos, and we didn't get a price. It really felt lackluster. How do you think Sony responds on Thursday, Reiner?
Yeah, looking back at that Microsoft one, it was like going to a movie and getting a bunch of trailers and then there's no movie afterwards, right?
Right.
That's what it felt like. So I think Sony is going to go big. I really do. I think this will be the full reveal for PlayStation 5. That's what I'm hoping. Like, I really do hope that we get everything. We probably won't get price yet, Charch. I think price for PlayStation 5 is going to come closer to launch. It usually does. And I think that is the last game of chicken that's really played between Microsoft and Sony. I know they're both probably locked in with their marketing plans and what they want to sell it for. But as soon as they hear what the other company's doing, that might alter their plans. So I think that is like the last game of chicken that's going to be played between these two companies.
So what do you think on Thursday? First, we're going to see the physical unit on Thursday, right? I believe we will. I hope so too.
We've seen the controller. It's weird looking. It looks like a stormtrooper from Star Wars. Mm-hmm. It's white and black. It's very different. Looks
I like
cool.
it. Yep.
Doesn't have the big glowy light on the top. Hopefully.
Which is fine. Yep. Nobody needed that, as it turned out.
No,
not really.
No, and it just drained your battery faster than it should. I think we will see the hardware, the actual physical PlayStation 5, or maybe there's more than one. I'm hoping it's just one and they keep it maybe just a couple colors. And I think we're going to see some demos that show what the system does, not just for games, but the hardware itself. Taking a tour of, the user interface and all that stuff. I hope when I say the full reveal, I hope that's what we get from PlayStation's, in quotes, the future of gaming live stream that will be hitting at 3 p.m. our time
on Thursday. I want to see in-game footage. I want to see some more like what we saw with that Unreal Engine 7 demo that was running on a PS5. I want to see more of that because I'm watching that in my drool forming in the side of my mouth. Like, oh my God, this is what I want to see. I want to see more of that. I don't want to see the canned trailers and the canned videos. And, I want to see real gameplay running in real time on real hardware. That's not asking too much.
Yeah, and I think if Sony goes full in, you're going to get first-party games. And those first-party games are designed exclusively for PlayStation 5. So it will take advantage of that faster SSD. That's the big difference maker between PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, right? Xbox Series X is technically more powerful, has more flops to it. They're saying PlayStation 5 might be faster. What does that mean to game development and game design? I'm hoping we see that on Thursday.
I don't think. Don't you think in general though these two consoles are going to be very, very similarly powered? And at the end of the day, when you're playing a game on both systems, whatever that game is, they're going to feel really, really similar on both.
I think so, but one thing that's different than I've seen in any other generation is when Epic Games said that they've redesigned, reformatted Unreal to take advantage of PlayStation 5 because it's a very special machine. They said, I've never seen a tech developer say that before. Usually they're making next-gen technology, right? And then it's applied to all the platforms.
Yeah.
But whatever this SSD is doing could be a difference maker here for Sony, whereas the flops could be a difference maker for Microsoft. They're two very different things that they've kind of championed as kind of their benchmark for what they think next gen is, at least in one feature set, right?
Yeah. So I don't know.
So we'll see. We'll see.
I think at the end of the day, there were differences between the PS4 and the Xbox One. And at the end of the day, if you're running Assassin's Creed Odyssey on one of them, it ran almost identically on the other.
Oh, right. And, the developers of third-party games are hitting that middle line, right? They want it to run equally on both systems. It would take a considerable amount of money and effort to tweak it or make it better for one system. They don't do that. They just kind of hit that middle road and, whatever, sometimes they take advantage of little performance things here or there, but usually third parties are making a game that looks the same on both systems. That's what you're saying about Xbox One and PlayStation 4. The games look very similar.
Yep.
It's going to happen again from third parties and new gen, but those first party games are the ones that are going to be that you want to keep an eye on because they are not being tailored for, the
Right.
Xbox machine or vice versa the PlayStation 5.
Now, we both hope that Sony's Thursday streaming press conference is going to be great. We're going to see a lot of stuff. If it really feels like, and I'm going to be a very happy guy on Thursday, Sony's going to announce Horizon Zero Dawn 2 as a launch title. There's been so many rumors about this, Reiner, and I'm just reading the rumors on the internet. I have no inside information on this, but if I have seen that game connected to launch more than any other, or at least speculated to launch. Do you believe we're going to see Horizon Zero Dawn 2 as a launch title for the PS5?
I'm going to say launch title, 10% chance.
Okay.
Do we see it Thursday? 95% chance.
Okay.
I'm going to put it in the launch. I'm going to put it in the launch window. The developer Guerrilla Games of Horizon Zero Dawn, they made the Killzone series beforehand.
Yes.
They had a Killzone as a launch title for PlayStation 4.
They did. It was not great.
No, but this team has hit launch before.
Yes, they
I
have.
don't want them to rush a Horizon game. That said, they've been quiet for a long time.
They have. And the last one, Horizon Zero Dawn, was 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had plenty of time to be working on this. Horizon
They have.
Zero Dawn.
But when did they get the final build of PlayStation 5 that they've been working on? Like, these are questions like, how long have they actually been working on the system they're going to release the game for?
February 2017. I have my apologies. But still, that's 3 years of development.
Yeah, they had plenty of time to design it and get their vision together and start executing.
Sure, but they could start working on it, knowing that the next console is going to have 4K graphics, so our assets are going to be all scaled to 4K, and there's a lot of things they could have been doing before they had all of the hardware figured out. So let's hope Horizon Zero Dawn is part of this press conference on Thursday. We'll get official announcement on that, and for people like me that loved Horizon Zero Dawn, don't forget, coming to PC soon this summer. I don't know if it's dated yet, but it's coming to Steam, which is going to be great, and that'll give a lot of people a chance to play it that never owned the PS4.
And if it is there, if Horizon 2 is there, that will be the last thing we see. I cannot think of anything else that Sony would have that would be bigger than that game. Yeah,
right. We're not going to get, and honestly, I don't even want another Uncharted ever. I just think to me that it has lived its life and it's over for me. So, I don't think we're going to get an Uncharted. I don't think we're going to get one of these, flagship first-party announcement from Sony outside of Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, poor Naughty Dog, the developer of Uncharted, they are releasing a day later. After all this next-gen news hits, they are releasing The Last of Us Part 2.
Isn't that funny?
They just keep moving it. There's, obviously bad things going on in the world. They're trying to find the right window. More bad things happen. Sony delays its press conference to a day before the new release date.
Yeah.
That they're now locked in for. But at least that game is coming. That is next Friday, by the way. Not this Friday, but the following Friday.
Right. And when does your review get released? When's the embargo date on that?
I think it's the 12th. So
okay. So just a few days
this
from now.
Friday. Yeah.
Okay, this Friday. All right. So we'll know a week in advance whether or not it's worth buying. Hint, it's probably worth buying.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Of note, talking about delays, Xbox moved its next streaming event back to August, and they haven't even dated it. It was originally thought to be July, and now they've just said August, and so we don't know what's going on with Xbox, but I think they were reeling after last month's boondoggle, and now they're trying to, I think, find a more meaningful event to put together in August. But August is a long time from now.
It is, and the thing that scares me is the big game that's going to be there is Halo. Halo Infinite. They're going to launch a new Halo game with the Xbox Series X this fall, whenever that's going to be. Why do you keep delaying the look at this game? Like, we've seen little snippets here or there, but we have not seen any kind of run and gun play or anything like that. What's going on there? Why do you keep pushing back your first-party reveals? You gave us some third-party stuff, which, again, as you said earlier, for Xbox Series X, didn't really show us much. It was just a bunch of gameplay cut into kind of a quick, trailer-like format, and then that was it. We were done. Like, it told us nothing about the system. most of these games are going to be on PC and PlayStation 5 as well. We got nothing from it. We need to know why we need to be interested in Xbox Series X. And yet here we are, likely a few months from launch, 5 months.
It's getting close. It's getting close.
And they delayed the first party stuff till August.
I know.
Like, what's going on there?
It is crazy. All right, moving away from Sony's Thursday streaming press conference, we've got the PC gaming show is coming up this weekend, and it's going to have 50 PC games for those of you that are PC gamers like I am. You mentioned the IGN Expo is going to have a bunch of new game reveals and a lot of gameplay and a lot of information. That's coming up as well. Destiny 2 gets an announcement today. We've been forthright that during the whole COVID situation, we're pre-recording these Tuesday morning to air Tuesday night. In the lag between these two events, us recording and the time you hear this, there will be some Destiny 2 news about their new expansion. So that's that will be available for you. Bethesda will not have an event this year of any kind. Do you find that telling in any way, Reiner?
I do. Todd Howard and his team that made the Elder Scrolls games and the Fallout games, they announced two games, two E3s ago.
Mm-hmm.
They have a new new role-playing game. It's a new IP, the first one they've made in 25 years, called Starfield, and this is going to be a sci-fi single-player role-playing game.
Mm-hmm.
So you immediately think Elder Scrolls and Fallout, the good Elder Scrolls and Fallout games. And then they also have Elder Scrolls 6 in development.
Yeah, well, they also announced at that time Elder Scrolls Blades, which has been just an epic blunder.
Yes, and that ended up coming out on Switch to very little fanfare as well,
Correct.
just last month.
Yeah,
In Charge, I have to update you. Microsoft denies that it delayed an Xbox event to August.
Okay, thank you. That's good. Thank you for the update.
Aaron Greenberg said we have not pushed back anything. So
okay, all right.
Hopefully that means we'll get to see stuff in July then, as they stated earlier.
Well, wait. Are they saying it wasn't a delay? And there's two different stories here. They're saying it wasn't a delay; it was always planned for August, or are they saying it's not going to happen in August?
They said that they have not pushed anything back. So the reports were that it was going to be in July and it was going to be pushed to August.
Okay.
So they said they have not pushed anything back. It is a very...
that doesn't clarify whether or not it's happening in July or August to me.
Yeah.
All right. It could still be in August.
But they just said...
But it wasn't pushed back. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Whatever that might mean. All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about some new news about The Last of Us and the show that's coming up, which I'm extremely excited about. We think we know what Bungie's working on next, maybe. And we've got some news about Far Cry, and I want to talk about the games to fill your summer with. You know, all the kids are on summer break. Teachers are on summer break.
Yeah.
And this is your last chance in this generation to play all the great games you missed. What were they? We'll talk about those when we come back. Video Games Weekly with Paul Charchian and Reiner. Welcome back to Video Games Weekly. Paul Charchian and Reiner with you. Reiner, we've just talked about some of the big pressers that are coming in lieu of E3 and what we want to see from some of those. I forgot to touch on this. We mentioned the Guerrilla Gaming Day. That means, and they're going to have Larian Studios there. I think we're going to get a long look at the new Baldur's Gate. And you know how I feel about Divinity Original Sin and Original Sin 2. These are our benchmark cooperative role-playing games. And it feels like it was all leading up to this for Larian Studios to take the helm of a beloved D&D franchise in Baldur's Gate.
Church, I have to know, as someone that loves Original Sin 2 as much as you do, are you excited that they are taking on kind of this known property, or would you rather have them make Divinity Original Sin 3?
I'm ready. I'm ready for this. I'd love to see this in more of a standard D&D world, which will be great. And I really feel like the other thing it's going to do is the Baldur's Gate name has so much equity to it, Reiner.
Yeah.
I think this launches Larian Studios into a whole new stratosphere. This thing's going to be, I think it's going to reach an audience that Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2 just couldn't reach. And I think it's, you know, if it is as good as, if the quality here in this Baldur's Gate game is as good as the Divinity ones, it'll be a Game of the Year contender. You know, the other ones should have been Game of the Year contenders and when they came out too, but it was such a small studio, it just didn't reach people. I think by being a Baldur's Gate game and having the official D&D licensing to it, I think Larian Studios vaults into a whole new stratosphere of reach for consumers. Do you think that's fair?
I do. I always worry that, you see someone that's, paving their own path and they finally hit, pay dirt. And then rather than really showing what they're capable of with a game, this thing that they created that they loved, they get pulled in a different direction to take on something that's arguably bigger, but it could completely derail this vision that they were creating with this other series, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a little, I agree with you. I think it's great for Larian in terms of exposure and launching them. Working on this Baldur's Gate, this goes back decades?
Yeah, 20 years.
Yeah, like people love these games. They've been hungry for a new one. But at the same time, a new Divinity Original Sin 3 could be like with Bethesda hitting with Oblivion, right? Mm-hmm. Something like that, where they could maybe hit the same peaks with their own brand, but we'll see.
Maybe. If they were trying to do something that was out of the norm of what Larian had done, it would be different. But looking at the gameplay for Baldur's Gate 3, the gameplay and the mechanics are really, really similar to Divinity Original Sin. So I really feel like the only thing that they're changing is the IP, and they're not changing who they are, and they're not trying to be something they're not. This isn't like, I don't know, BioWare trying to make a shooter in Anthem. That worries me. So I think this is so close to it. No, it really didn't. This is so close to what Larian does anyway. I think the chances for success are really high.
Well, here's a question for you. Just piggybacking that. Do you think when EA reschedules their event for the summer, they pushed it from June 11th to who knows when, do you think we'll see more Anthem?
Yes. I think they will, because they say that they've rededicated a team to keeping it alive. And if you don't, man, I mean, you're really acknowledging it's dead then, right? So I think they at least give some mention to it, again, only because they've gone out of their way to say that there really are resources working on it and that they're trying to keep it alive. So I'm going to say yes. What do you say?
I would do it as its own event. I think
really
the words Anthem or seeing Anthem might anger people to just turn off your stream that were snake bit by it. So maybe you want to do that as its own little dedicated we're back party
for Anthem hardcores only.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
get out of the blast range of your other products that you're trying to hype up and have an Anthem day.
We don't do a lot of rumors on this show, in part because we don't normally have time for things that aren't verified, and in part because a lot of the internet gets these things wrong a lot. But there's a couple of them that seem to have a lot of steam that I want to run by you. One is Ubisoft's streaming event's going to be July 12th, so it's still a month away. But it's rumored that Far Cry 6 will be revealed there, and it's a lot of different media that are reporting this. The location is said to be more exotic than what we've seen in the past, which is saying a lot because they've had some really fascinating locales in the past. The last one was Far Cry 5 that was set in Montana. And it's believed Far Cry 6 is believed to be coming in 2021. The timing feels right. So it's been 3 years. So yeah, the timing feels right. Should we be getting another Far Cry 6 here?
I don't think the timing is right anymore. Like, if Ubisoft didn't delay all of its product following the release of that last Ghost Recon game, where they were like, we have to retool everything. So Watch Dogs, Gods and Monsters, there's a bunch of games, Rainbow Six Quarantine, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. These are all games that are queued up before any new unannounced games. That's a lot. At the same time, Ubisoft pumps out their sequels.
They do.
They've had a Far Cry pretty much every year. There was Far Cry 5, which is pretty relevant today now, set in America, dealing with rednecks and all that stuff. And then they released kind of that pseudo sequel to that. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a sequel to Far Cry 5 with a different name, Red Dawn or something. I can't remember what they named it, but that came out last year. So I'm guessing maybe the time's right for a new one, but they have so many games just like sitting there
in the pipeline,
to release.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just hey, this is a real thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe we're not going to get a lot, but they just acknowledge that they're working on it. They give us a little bit of information about it, like the location, and then they just go back to grinding on that while these other games come out. maybe that's it. All right, rumor number 2. Internet sleuthers believe Bungie's next new IP, is a dungeon crawling role playing game called Matter. It sounds like Destiny, which is obviously theirs, mixed with Diablo in that it is a very loot drop heavy game. In fact, there is a job listing for at Bungie right now for somebody whose sole job is to manage loot drops, which would be pretty darn fun. I mean, that sounds like a great job. There's also a job listing for comedy writers, and that may be pegged to this new game as well, believed to be called Matter. Do you think this one has got legs?
Boy, I mean, Bungie split off of Activision to kind of shepherd Destiny on its own, right?
Yep.
That's a huge undertaking. They haven't done much. They've had updates here or there, but they haven't done much in terms of big reveals with Destiny since. I don't know if adding another game makes sense, but maybe that is how you launch your company into the stratosphere.
Yeah. Two IPs is not unreasonable.
No, but in something like Diablo, you would assume would be a slightly smaller dev team than Destiny. I liked the name of it, Matter. I think that's catchy. And
and if you don't if you don't like that name, are you anti-Matter?
Oh, the reviews!
It writes
the
itself,
review bombs,
right?
here they come.
Yeah, here it comes.
But the other job listings, loot drops, that could be for Destiny. Comedy writers, that could also be for Destiny.
It could be.
When you have characters like Nathan Fillion, or actors like Nathan Fillion that
can deliver it.
Bring your characters to life. So I don't know. I would love the more IP, the better. I say the more new experiences we can get from big teams, the better. Obviously, we love sequels like Assassin's Creed and all that, but yes, I would like to see more from Bungie.
Maybe for me, the best news of this week comes from HBO, where HBO's working on the pilot for The Last of Us, and the team that they have assembled is unbelievable. I believe HBO's Chernobyl, which came out at about this time last year, is the best miniseries ever made and some of the best television across the board ever produced. It was an astounding accomplishment. Just gripping and anxiety-filled and jaw-dropping and just so many great things about Chernobyl. They took the writer of Chernobyl, who was also the producer, a guy named Craig Mazin, and they teamed him up with Chernobyl's director, Johan Rennick. And they are going to be the director, writer, and producer, along with Neil Druckmann, who, of course, shepherded The Last of Us for Naughty Dog. That's like the dream team. This show is going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, and if you thought the game was unnerving and depressing,
wait till these guys get done with it.
Until it gets in the hands of Rennick and Mason. Like, it's going to be crushing, absolutely crushing.
Good.
But I agree with you. I think that's great for video games. We've always wanted video games to be able to move to the silver screen or the small screen, for TV,
and not in bad ways, because it's almost always been just garbage.
Yeah, they've always had a bad hand dealt to them, whether it's the director or the actors attached or the script isn't anything like the game. Yeah, and that song and dance happens over and over and over.
Speaking of which, do you want this HBO show, The Last of Us show, do you want it to mirror the events of the video games, or do you want them to tell completely different stories from that world?
I want completely different stories from that world, because The Last of Us 1 is one of the best games out there. Don't mess with it. Leave it as its own story. Have that story be referenced, or some of those characters maybe appear at points in the TV show, but focus on a different cast of characters. Tell their story instead, because gamers live through a masterpiece. It'd be like if you made a BioShock movie. Would that translate well? I don't think so. That's something where you inhibited it as this player. You're doing these actions, and there's this reveal of why you did them. That wouldn't resonate on the screen.
I agree. Last of Us is a third-person game in which we are watching and controlling these main characters. I think that's different.
And just anytime you see a character come to life like that from kind of cartoony, polygonal to real life, being a known actor, I don't know. It doesn't sit well for me. It for whatever reason, like Will Smith becoming Aladdin, that worked for me, but I always cringe when I get a game character that's coming to life on the
What
silver
about
screen.
Witcher?
It's very different for me.
Witcher was a huge, huge hit, and it vaulted Witcher 3. They had more people playing Witcher 3 when the Netflix show Witcher hit. The Steam usage was higher there than at launch of Witcher 3. So it was a massive catalyst. I think Witcher 3 showed us that the TV shows and I thought the TV show was just fair. It was okay.
Yeah.
But it can be really, really popular, and then it can go back and make the game even more popular.
Yeah, and I think Henry Cavill, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he did a fine job. But at the same time, him kind of mimicking the game character voice, I was just kind of like, I don't know about this.
I agree with that part. I agree with that part.
I mean, he looked like him.
Yeah. It was a little too Batman for me.
Yeah, it was just a little off.
I thought so too. I got a couple. We've got a long segment coming up in which we want to talk about some of the great games of this generation that you may have missed. But first, I want to sneak in a couple of things. You urged me to join Microsoft Rewards, something I had never done, and it took me literally 5 seconds. I Googled Microsoft Rewards. I clicked a link. And then, wham! I'm in. I'm now collecting rewards, and I could have been doing this for years. Why are you urging people to join Microsoft Rewards?
Yeah, this is just a quick PSA for people, but every time I turn on my Xbox, boot up a game or download a new game, even a free game on Games with Gold, it'll say like, "Hey, you completed a quest for Microsoft Rewards." I'm like,
I did.
What is this?
Yeah.
And I've never really thought about it. I went in, I looked at the menu, and it showed I had like 40,000 points. I was like, what is this all about? Got out of Dodge. Decided to go back in there, explore it more because I kept getting these quests. I'm like, I might turn this off. Like, what is this? Why do I keep getting alerts? I went in there and looked, and you can redeem the points. And again, this is just a PSA for people. And you can redeem the points for Xbox currency, so you could spend it in the store. You can extend your gold membership a month.
Okay.
And I ended up having 40,000 points, which I turned in for $40 in currency
Well,
to use
that's buying
the
a game.
Xbox store. Yeah. So basically, I have $40 to play with next time I go into the Xbox store. So just a PSA to turn on Microsoft Rewards if you haven't already. It's free. It's just a little annoying that you keep getting alerts, but you are getting basically
something
money
tangible.
for free.
Yeah, right.
You can also donate it to charities, and there's a bunch of options for you. Yeah.
So one of the things I noted was if you use Bing as your browser, just or as your search engine, and I don't know, why not? Well, there are good reasons why not. You shouldn't use Google either. I don't. I use DuckDuckGo. You want privacy, you should use DuckDuckGo. But if you don't care, Bing will earn you. Just every search will earn you rewards. So that's another way you can get Microsoft.
Yeah, anything you do with
to.
Microsoft, it's all unified under your account. But yeah, that's just a way to get some free money that you can turn in whenever you're looking for a game to play.
You interviewed Tony Hawk last week.
I did, yes. So there's going to be a big write-up in the upcoming issue, which we're launching on June 30th.
Okay.
And yeah, I talked to Tony Hawk. Obviously, he's not relevant in games today. His day was back on PS1, PS2.
Yeah, this is the 90s, yes.
Everybody remembers Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. That was a huge event in gaming, what they call action sports, which is very different than Madden and the baseball games. But it was, BMX, wakeboarding, surfing, snowboarding, skateboarding. Tony Hawk led the charge there. It was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was the John Madden football of action sports.
For sure.
And I thought we would get these every year, just like the Madden games. I adored them. The series went off the rails, got story focused, kind of went into the, I don't know if I could say it on the air, Church, but
no, I know what you're saying.
Riding in shopping carts and just kind of getting away from skateboarding.
Change developers, importantly. And once Neversoft was doing it originally, right? And
yes, and Neversoft went on to do Guitar Hero, and now they're a support studio for the Call of Duty games. They're still very relevant today in a way behind the scenes. It's a shame they're no longer making games like Gun and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. But what happened is the market got flooded. EA came out with Skate and basically split the Tony Hawk revenue.
Yeah.
And eventually, between Tony Hawk and Skate, neither company was making enough money to keep making these games. So they went away. Flash forward numerous years, they tried to do a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD remaster. It was bad. They tried to make a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 or 6. I don't remember where they were at. It was bad. It just didn't live up to it. That was a few years ago. But now, following the success of Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon, these reboots or these remasters that they did for new gen, Vicarious Visions and Activision are remaking Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, and they look phenomenal. New gen graphics, they look like brand new games, but remember Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1, the warehouse, that first level?
Yeah.
You're going back into that. They've added the revert move. This is the thing that links combos together.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have huge runs like you never had before in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. All your skills from Tony Hawk's 1, if you're playing as Tony or Bob Burnquist or any of those characters. By the way, Charch, they are going to look like what they do today in their 40s and 50s.
Oh, no way. That's funny. Good.
So it won't be like throwback looks, but Tony is still skating today in his 50s, by the way.
Good for him.
Yeah, it's amazing. But there, any skills you earn in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 will transfer to 2, so you can kind of continue your career, have your moves and all that stuff. And then you can also design your own parks, play online, share your parks online. This looks like it's going to be a big revival for the series. And here's hoping that, yes, they could reboot or remaster the 8 other games that are in the series next. Yeah. But I'm hoping they go to rebranding Tony Hawk's Pro Skater as a series, starting it over with a fresh new game.
That'd be great. I hope so, too. I just don't know if there's an appetite for these games. Sometimes some games just had their time, and they were relevant 20 years ago. I don't know how much people want to play that skateboarding style of game anymore, of just trying to string together combos around an open world. I think it's fun, but I don't know that it'll ever capture a mass audience again.
Yeah, the market's wide open for them now. Can lightning strike twice for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater? I don't know. I think you're right. I think it's going to be a much smaller audience no matter what. Mm-hmm. But if they keep that in perspective, I would love to have these games come back year after year, just like the NHLs and Maddens and the baseball games. It'd be amazing because I love that quick restart, start a grind, fall over, quick restart, do aerial tricks, try to get the biggest combo I can. There's something to that's just fun, and it's missing today.
The games you've missed over this last generation of video games, the PS4, the Xbox One, we'll tell you which ones you want to spend your summer with when we come back to the final segment of Video Games Weekly on the Fan. Final segment of Video Games Weekly on the Fan. Paul Charchian and Reiner with you. We're at the end of the life cycle of the PS4 and the Xbox One, Reiner, but nobody played all the good games except you. So I am looking for your guidance, and it's summer. A lot of us have got time on our hands now that we don't have during the season, especially kids that are out of school, college kids, younger kids, teachers who are out of school, whatever. We've got, you've got time over the summer. It's blazing hot outside. You want to spend time inside. Let's play some games. What are the games for each of the 2 key platforms, the Xbox One, the PS4, that people may have missed that are required playing for most people? And let's start here. Let's start with games that are on both platforms.
Sure.
So games that appeared on both the Xbox One and the PS4. How about we'll start wherever you'd like. It's up to you.
I'm going to start with The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the best RPGs ever, and I feel like it's going to be a while until we see it on new gen systems because CD Projekt, the developer, is releasing Cyberpunk 2077 this fall, which
that's all hands
should be
on
on this list as well. I mean, we don't know the quality of it yet, but that's a game everybody's going to want to play. But that will be on new gen in the near future. So you can experience Cyberpunk on PS5 and Xbox Series X. But Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, I'm guessing it's going to be years until it's on the new systems.
It's
amazing.
It's the high water mark in first person role playing games. It's the best.
Person. Yeah, it is. Some of the best quests and just the feeling of having an open world to explore your way is done so well in this RPG. So The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Agreed. All right, next. What's the next multi-platform game you recommend? You loved the Ori games.
Yeah, a lot of people think those are just for Xbox, but you can play the first one, The Blind Forest, on Switch. They're on PC.
Yep.
But yeah, the Ori games are amazing platformers that, this feels weird as you're jumping around, have a lot of heart and soul, and just they're beautiful.
So gorgeous.
Worlds that you just want to see every inch of, and you just are dazzled by the majesty tied to these lush foliages, and it just feels magical, right?
Yeah.
They're very hard games, but they're great games.
Red Dead Redemption 2, we talked about it, constantly for the better part of almost a year leading up to it, and then after launch, and incredibly successful, but there's still a handful of people out there that have not played Red Dead 2.
Yeah, and I'll follow that up with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. This might be the one you want to have at the top of your list if you're a fan, because we have Assassin's Creed Valhalla coming. No release date yet, but within the launch window of these new systems, I would assume it'll be there. But Odyssey, huge, sprawling Assassin's Creed game, the biggest game they've made. You have sailing, you have scurrying up walls, tons of quests to do, great stories, lots of choice in this one. That's different than the other games where you actually are kind of sculpting your character as a good person or a bad person.
Yeah, and a stronger narrative than I think many of the Assassin's Creed games. Divinity Original Sin 2 has already been mentioned. Yep, here it comes. It's the best couch co-op role-playing game of all time. And if you want something to you want one game to fill your summer with, Divinity Original Sin 2 with a son or daughter or spouse on the couch will take your whole summer, and you will have a great time playing together and exploring that world and playing how you want to play. Divinity Original Sin 2 available on both platforms. The next great game to fill your summer with from this current generation, our last gasp, is Dead Cells. You loved Dead Cells.
Yeah, and this is a game that you just play for like 15, 20 minutes at a time. You do a run, you get new powers. It plays like side-scrolling Castlevania. It has the same look. But that's a game that in between big games, you can kind of get a lot out of Dead Cells. It's on everything. Totally worth your time.
Yeah, we should spend some time on games with runs. I mean, this has become a big deal now.
Fury Unleashed.
Fury Unleashed. Binding of Isaac is, I think, in my mind, one of the greats. It goes all the way back to the original Rogue. But games where nobody finishes them, you're just trying to see how long your run can get, and that's become an increasingly big deal in games. Are games that are built around the run. Next, your game of the year from last year, Control.
Yeah, so this kind of has a Twin Peaksy, X-Files-y sci-fi vibe. You're playing as a character that gets basically like Star Wars force powers in this complex that's ever-changing. It is a trip of a game. This is another one they kind of feed you a little carrot at the beginning. You want to see where it goes. One of the best kind of action shooters out there from this last gen. Don't miss that one.
Yeah, the rare mind-bending action shooter, Control. Yes. Overwatch is still relevant now, 3 years after launch. It originally got a 10 out of 10 by Game Informer, and you continue to play it on a near daily basis.
Yeah, this the hero. It's kind of innovated the hero shooter genre. That's where everybody on the battlefield is a different character, at least on your team. So you get kind of a really unique composition with who's out there and the strategies you have. It just plays super well. And yeah, they keep adding new content. Overwatch 2 coming hopefully next year or maybe even this year. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, totally worth your time before you move on to the new systems.
Rocket League is one of the most improbable success stories of this past generation of consoles. It's a soccer game with cars. It's super easy to pick up and play, although it's surprisingly challenging to play well.
Yeah.
You can pick it up and play it because it's not complicated, but man, it's hard to get your car to do everything you want it to do without some practice. But it's spawned in a whole Rocket League leagues and professional competitive play.
Yeah, the Rocket League is just such a different type of game, a sport experience, a competitive experience. If you've never played it, give it 5 minutes of your time. That's how long it takes to complete a match, and I bet you're hooked.
These are the games to fill your summer with. These are great games from this past generation as this generation is on its last gasp. And in most cases, almost all these games now are dirt cheap because these are older games that have been out in most cases 2, 3, 4 years. And that includes the 2016 version of Doom that I played through just a couple of months ago and was blown away at how beautiful that Doom game is and how well it holds up, Reiner.
Yeah, and you can just roll into the sequel, Doom Eternal, if you like that one. So that is, Doom, obviously one of the biggest games of all time, but I think they've done a great job of giving it new life with Doom and Doom Eternal. Totally worth a look.
Let's zip through some exclusives for the Xbox One and the PS4. Great games from this generation that people should play. And we've only got about 2 minutes left in the show.
Okay.
Where do you want to go with if you're going to recommend a couple of Xbox One games for the owners of that console?
Forza Horizon 4, that's the festival atmosphere.
Yeah, it's so good.
Launching through fences, over hills. It's amazing. Gears of War 5, that is an amazing single player and co-op and competitive shooter built on this kind of long-running series. I think they did a great job of giving it new life again. And then
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and then Insomniac Games, the creators of Spider-Man for PlayStation 4, they made a game for Xbox called Sunset Overdrive, which has you grinding on rails, kind of like the Tony Hawk games, and spray painting and battling monsters within a really colorful city. I think those 3 games are amazing.
Yeah, Sunset Overdrive was kind of overlooked. It came out early in the Xbox One life cycle, and I think a lot of people just didn't even own the console at that time.
Yeah.
Let's shift to the PS4. What are the games that you recommend people fill their summer with that may have been overlooked?
Well, obviously God of War. I mean, that's one of the big ones. Horizon Zero Dawn, which we touched on earlier. I just mentioned Spider-Man from Insomniac. One of the best licensed games out there.
And I think Spider-Man, I've seen Spider-Man run. I think they just released like the gold edition of it or whatever. It's like $19.
Yeah, I mean, it's
with all the
if
DLC.
You haven't played that, you would love it. It's a great story too. And then also, let's just kind of rattle them off. Until Dawn, one of the best horror games with a lot of choice. Bloodborne, those are the Dark Souls styles games. This one is kind of Cthulhu-esque.
It is. I like that part of Bloodborne a lot. The Lovecraftian elements to it.
The Last Guardian. And then that was, the Shadow of the Colossus team where you're running around with a big dog. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very Miyazaki-esque. And then Uncharted 4, which we mentioned at the top of the show as well.
I'll wrap up for those with PlayStation VR. If you haven't yet hit Beat Saber, Super Hot, Racket NX, or Skyrim, those to me are all must-play VR titles for the PlayStation. Reiner, great job today. It's been a lot of fun. We're going to have so much to talk about. We'll be breaking down next week Sony's PS5 conference from later this week. And I can't wait to talk about everything that we've learned about the PS5 with you 1 week from now.